Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Com Report wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media, AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in, and you can read my work on ESPN.com. I have a story up now about Jayden Daniels, and basically he says, I'm still a rookie. No kidding, but I'll get into that in a minute and why I even wrote the story and why it matters what he says. Anyways, so this is our midweek report, so let's get to it. Oh, by the way, for you gold members, I'm going to be doing my private Zoom session at 7:30 on Friday night this week. I was going to do it Thursday. It's been a long week coming off the long road trip and trying to get back in the swing of things and getting overscheduled on some days. So Friday night, 7:30 it is, and hopefully you can join me. Look for the link sometime, tomorrow, Thursday morning or Friday morning. So anyway, there we go. Bring your questions. I know you guys are going to be pumped up about the game Sunday. Kind of fun to just talk about football, isn't it, folks? And I think that's what's really cool here is that, it's funny. We were talking to John. I'm going to get to some updates in a quick minute, but I want to start here talking to John Allen about how, the question is like, how do you guys now ignore the national media, ignore what people are saying about you? I kind of laugh because I even asked him, like, listen, this is kind of like the reverse of what's been going on. So, for years, it was like, how do you not let the outside noise get to you and all the stuff happening in the building? But a lot of it led to a lot of negative outside noise. Now it's all about, well, how do you ignore all this positive stuff going on? And the one thing Alan said, which I completely agree with, like, the last group of people they should pay attention to is media, right? And it's not even just media. We all know fans say this too, and they can see social media. So what you guys say in social media, they're going to see as well. But I do agree, like, ignore all that. If I were a pro athlete, I'm not going to care what I write, what someone like me writes. That I'm not writing for them, and nor should they be paying attention. They should worry about what their coaches say, et cetera. And that's what it is. It can be hard to do, but some guys do that pretty well. And even he said, sometimes you're going to bear, you start reading it, you start believing that maybe you're not that good, or maybe you believe that you're too good. So the key is not to read it. But I do think it's funny that this is how it's flipped. Now it is, how do you ignore all these positive things that everybody's saying about this team? Kind of it's really, I keep going over and over, and I say this every time, but it is really a new day, and I'll get to more of that in a second. But let's get to some important things right away, which are injury updates. So Coach Dan Quinn said that Austin Ekeler is trending toward playing on Sunday. And we saw, and this is Ekeler said the same thing. He feels good. And in fact, he even talked to a couple of us in the media afterwards today. So you're doing that when you feel pretty good, right? You can still be in protocol, and he's cleared a level where he can come back and do some stuff in practice, limited, non-contact. And so when we were out there watching today, we get about 20 to 30 minutes. He was just doing some stuff on the side with running backs coach Anthony Lynn. So a run game coordinator, I should say, Anthony Lynn. So that's what but he's had this helmet on, he had the yellow non-contact jersey on, and he's running some routes, running hard. So we'll see how he progresses, but they are optimistic about what he can do. Jordan McGee and Marcus Mariota and F.A. Obata all were activated off of IR. And so they now have that 21-day window where they can, in that time, they can be activated or they revert back to IR. Now, in our chat, our live stream on Tuesday, I didn't think Obata was going to be coming back. So my bad there, folks. But that was, it certainly seemed like the early information I had heard about him was that he may not be coming back in this time period, but he is. Good for him. And I will say, when we were out in Arizona, I watched him doing some drills before a practice. He was going pretty hard on some of the stuff, just some pass rush drills and all that. So early on with him, I had heard that maybe it would be longer, right? But watching him the other day, it should have put something in my brain that maybe he's a lot closer to coming back than I realized. So he's back. So I apologize to those of you who, I did say I didn't think he's coming back, but he's actually been activated. So whether or not he comes back, I still don't know, but I'm watching him do one-on-one pass rush drills. And so that's a good sign. It's a good sign for him. Still don't know where it's going to go. 21-day window for all of them. But as Quinn said, a lot of these injury guys are trending in the right direction. Then guard Nick Allegretti, told me today he said he would be okay for Sunday. And he's like, I don't have to run fast. So that's his mindset. He was walking okay. I saw it was his right ankle that got rolled up on. It looked okay. I'll tell you what, like Allegretti's kind of a fun guy to talk to. Like I enjoy talking to that guy. Um, Good insight, good sense of humor, just good disposition. And the one thing you with this offensive lineman, like it's kind of just some real dudes. And I think it's one reason why offensive linemen can be easy to like because they tend to be more real dudes than a lot of other guys. Even though they make a lot of money, they seem to be more grounded, and maybe because they have to pound and pound and pound every play. But anyways, bottom line is Allegretti said he feels okay, and so there you go. And anyway, but with the offensive line, they are getting a lot of praise, and we'll get to that in a minute. But they and it's well deserved. And I think it's a combination. I've said this before. Before the season, the team felt better about the O-line than people outside the team. But it's also an indication why you don't look at names. You can't just look at names for like, oh, well, this guy was this. They're going to be this. It's always about cohesion, working together, scheme, play calling, quarterback, right? And then the other thing that helps too is little things on the pass rush. Watch how many times the backs or the tight ends chip the ends, and sometimes the receivers chip them too. That all helps as well. So there's a lot of coordination to make. It's not, and even last year was like it wasn't always just about the offensive line. It was about the pass protection, and sometimes it could be a tight end. Sometimes it's a quarterback. A lot of time, half the time it seemed like it was and other time, and it's just the way it is. And but then there was also the offensive line issues, and there was play calling. So it's a lot of the stuff that wasn't happening last year that is happening this year in the positive. Plus, I also think they've upgraded at two of the three spots, and I think Coleman has a good future in this league. And I think he can be a good left tackle. I think he can be a good lineman. I think we want to see him over the course of a game and over the course of a few weeks before you really know what you have there. You see good signs, you see good development, and it's certainly, and I don't know when he's going to take over, if they're going to keep with this. It's something that, Cornelius Lucas is still starting. So we'll see what happens. But offensive line getting praise, and I think it's well deserved. And I can say all these other things about how X, Y, and Z has helped them, but they've also helped themselves with some good outings. So there you go. The other thing is today, when they go back to practice on Wednesday, like one thing I like about what they're doing now is they are doing some competition things still. So when we're out there, this is something that's kind of new. Like I hadn't seen it for a long time where they're having the one-on-one work with the linemen. So you got two sets of O linemen and D linemen going one-on-one with each other. So you got backups over here, starter types over here, starters and key reserves over here. And they're getting a lot of reps of one-on-one work. And that's, probably about 4 reps each, I think, maybe. That's pretty good in that session, considering how many guys are on it's five offensive linemen, but that's good work. And I think it's good competition. And that's one thing Quinn has talked about. I think guys like that. I think guys get up for that kind of stuff. And so it's a good thing to have to continue when you're practicing them. So in watching that, some good blocks by Coleman. A couple times, just Jamin Davis tries to get around the end. One time buries him in the ground. So he is really developing, and I think that's a good sign. I also liked a rep that Johnny Newton had against Tyler Biadasz. Now I think Biadasz is very good, but I like the quickness that Newton showed on the rush. Got to the inside, got him inside, and it certainly got Darryl Tapp fired up. So a good job by him. And I told you when watching Newton, I think the kid can play. I just think he needs time, right, to know how to do it at the NFL level. But he's going at some point, I think he'll start making plays. And listen, it could be in those 3 defensive tackle sets. They haven't used him a ton. I want to say it's like maybe 8 times in 2 games that he's been back or that he's played. But I do think against some teams that run the ball, like maybe Baltimore in 2 weeks, that maybe you see more of that. And I think that's a way he can make some plays because he's got good change of direction and he's got some power too. And so I think you use that low center of gravity to your advantage.
Hey, it's Bram Weinstein here, voice of the Commanders, and of course, frequent guest of this podcast, The John Keim Report. I wanted to let you all know that my show, which airs at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on ESPN 630, is now exclusively produced by Empire Media, my company, and is going to be distributed through our network. So I'm asking you, please, if you subscribe to this show and love this show, give mine a try as well. Subscribe to the Bram Weinstein Show wherever you get your podcasts, and many of the shows and many of the elements that are in the show will be available on the Empire Media YouTube channel. We're going to talk a ton of Commanders and other DC sports. Check it out.
Jayden Daniels. So he is the Nickelodeon most valuable player of the week. And this goes back to some of the chemistry that you're seeing out at the field. And if you maybe you've already seen it on social media, the Commanders put out a social media video of him sliming his offensive lineman and then them sliming him. That's where this team is at. And there's a genuine joy that I think they have being in that locker room with one another. And I think you see it with the quarterback because the way he is, it kind of flows from there. And I think you have other guys like Bobby Wagner in there who just bring a different sort of calmness, presence that they just haven't had and have sorely needed. But I do believe the way that Daniels comports himself makes a big difference. And he's out there dumping the slime. You can see the video, but he's dumping slime on the lineman's head. They came in the locker room. We saw him afterwards. They're all covered in this green stuff, but then they dumped it all on him. And he's just sitting there laughing. And that's where, you've got something there. You can obviously kind of maybe act your way through some of that stuff, but with him, it's not an act. And that's the thing, is he's been genuine since he got here. Dan Quinn talked about that, about his authentic style, which I think Wagner's the same way. There's an authentic style of leadership that when you are true to yourself, you're not acting one way here and another way there. You are being who you are all the time. And that's when and the consistency of it, and then you combine that with all the other elements, I think that's a really good thing for them. But, it's funny because when we talked to Daniels, a lot of it was about his jersey on Fanatics was the number one selling jersey last week. He's got all these people talking about saying, well, how great he is, right? And for him, he looks at it this way. When somebody asked him about the Fanatics jersey, for example, he said, it's, you're blessed to be in that situation where the way he flipped it is, maybe I can help inspire someone else or maybe help someone else with it. But he doesn't get caught up in that stuff. And I think that's absolutely genuine. Because when you ask him the question about, he might smile a little bit, but there's not like this great acknowledgement about like what's going on with him, right? And he's aware of it. I think and I would be too if I were him. How are you not? But I've heard from other people in the building, like, yeah, when he's sitting in my office and the TV's on and they're talking about him, he doesn't stop to listen to it. He doesn't stop to watch it. It's just noise, and he just keeps talking with whomever he is in the room or interacting, whatever he's doing, but he's not stopping to say, oh my gosh, I'm on TV. Let's hear what they're saying. That's not how he is. And so I think that's part of the reason why I think when you see those videos, I think that's part of what goes into it for sure. And then the other thing is if you remember in the spring, another reporter, I don't remember who, but asked him about, something about being a star quarterback and the perks that it gets you, right? So there are a couple of things he had done. He's like, is this just come along with being a star quarterback? He's like, I'm not a star. I haven't done anything yet. That was his line. I haven't done anything yet. So they asked him, somebody was asking him today about, well, brought up that comment. He's like, I'm still a rookie. Now the question wasn't over yet. The question was, can people call you a star rookie quarterback? And he's like, that's not something that means anything to him, right? That's not what he's here for. And I'm gonna read you his answer here to see to tell you what he said, because I think it's telling, and it's really about how there's a couple things. So what he said about the star rookie thing is like, y'all can say whatever you want. I'm still a rookie in my eyes, so I let everybody else do the talking for me. I don't get caught up in that stuff. But man, it's just a blessing, just the preparation. Obviously, the team believing in me. And us going out there and competing every Sunday. So he doesn't get caught up that, and he always spins it to the team. And I think that's a big deal. And when he talked about the national attention, and again, he said, thankful to be in that position. but he wants, it's funny because I know Ron Rivera used to say this, but it's keep the main thing the main thing. Some people say it and they don't do it. I think he does do it. And I mean, I hear from too many people close to him say, this is just who he is. And he's like, I don't get caught up in what people are saying or anything because none of that really matters. Because I could be playing good and then playing bad, and people would be thinking the opposite. So it's staying level headed. That's what you want in your quarterback. And I think that makes a huge difference, but it's why he endears himself to the team because it's not just spoken. I think the actions speak louder than what his words are. That's what teammates see. They don't care what he says. If you're not seeing it behind the scenes, they look at you as a phony because the way you're saying this and you're doing that, he's just, he's not out there bragging about how much work he does. Like his thing is, I got to keep getting better every day because otherwise it's just a good 4 games. I don't think he came to the NFL to be good for 4 games. Like he came here to win titles and to, and become a really good player. And you don't do that in 4 games. So the mission is way far from accomplished. And I think he's very well aware of that. And again, I think it helps that, one of the things that helps when you have guys like Wagner and Ertz in the locker room, guys who have won Super Bowl titles and understand what it takes. And even Allegretti, like he's coming from a Super Bowl team. You understand what it takes and how hard it is to do something. And not that I'm not putting them in that Super Bowl category at this point. Let's see how this plays out. But they are a team that's trying to build toward them. So when you have guys like that, and like, how do you achieve those things? It's just you keep working, you keep working, you keep working. I think that's why I've liked Dan Quinn's approach because I think he has a lot of that. And it's also keep working, but also don't forget what you have to do to get there. And don't, just because you win a game, don't think that this part of the game was good enough, because if you don't play better in this part down the road, it could really hurt you. So there's enjoy it, but get better. And I think that goes pretty well. And I think it also helps with those guys that they know Daniels can go to them and talk to those guys. And he does. He talks to Ertz all the time, talks to McLaurin all the time, talks to Wagner all the time. So all of that helps. And yeah, so I think that's all very good. And the other thing that guys were talking about too is the home field advantage for Sunday's game against the Browns and how important that is. And I think, I'll be honest, like there's a genuine excitement in talking to guys about what could happen, what it might feel like on Sunday against the Browns, because this is what you guys have wanted, and this is what they want to see how the response is there, because it's been hard there, as you know, and it's not fans' fault. Like they've got to give you a reason to go buy tickets and to go to that place, right? And they haven't been doing that. Well, now this is the guy that's trying to get, can get people back there and make it a charged atmosphere. And I know Zach Ertz said he expects the place to be rocking. And Dan Quinn, I'm going to tell you what Dan Quinn said, because, I think there's some good things about what they think can take place there because of the home field advantage. And he said, it's just the energy goes through the roof. And so that's what we'll dig for and keep battling for. And the better that we play, the more we can create that together. And then it becomes, man, this is a really hard place to play when you tie all of the things together. So that's what they're trying to get to. And I think, I think this Sunday, there have been a lot of times, as you know, in the past, where they're going into a game, the Giants game a couple of years ago, where I can just feel it, that you guys are starting to believe in them, and then they lay an egg. It just happened all the time. I don't think this is a team that lays an egg. I mean, I don't know where they're going to go. I will say I think the Browns are a couple plays from being 3-1, but you know what? They didn't make them. So they're not 3-1, but the point is, don't ever assume anything, because I don't think that's how you win titles, by assuming things. And I don't think this team will do that. And I feel pretty confident in saying that, but doesn't mean they'll win. But I think they know that this is only 4 games. Like a couple of those guys who were saying today, you don't win titles after 4 games. They're not passing out banners or trophies or playoff spots after 4 games. So if you think that you've gotten there, then you're going to have a hard time. And I go back to like Jim Zorn way back when, where after they were 6-3 one year and in first place or something like that, and somebody asked him about guys coming back, certain guys who were injured, and his comment was, well, I have to get them healthy for the playoffs. I'm like, at that point, I'm like, you lost, because you don't start thinking about the playoffs after 9 games. You think about making the playoffs, but you can't rest guys to get them ready for the playoffs I think he just assumed that's where it was going, and it certainly did not. So, anyway, but I think they are very excited about that. And then the last thing too, one of the last things, a couple more things, but about the identity. And Dan Quinn was asked if he feels like they're starting to, if they found their identity or if they are finding their identity. And I wanted to read you what he said, and now I can't find it, but I'm going to find it in 1 minute. So I want to read what that is, because I do think some of that he said, basically said, no, they're getting closer to it. He goes, and he said, we're building that, but by no means in 4 games are we where we're going to be 2 months from now. When we look back, we're going to say we're a lot better than we were 8 weeks ago, just by the way guys go after it and compete and battle for it. And so those are the things that I'll keep track of as we're going. So yeah, I agree. Like, you're not going to build an identity after 4 games, but you can start to see it take shape up, right? And what you're seeing on defense is, despite some of the negative plays, and they have to get better against the run, we know that, and they've got to find, we have to see consistency from them before you can think that they've gotten to a certain spot. But, I do think they play physical, right? I felt like last week they played faster overall. Offensively, we're seeing the identity. It's just, I think there's, the identity is they're pretty good. But what is it they do best? I mean, I think they make plays, and I think the quarterback, it starts with him, but I think I keep raving on, but the concepts have been really good, and they get guys open. And I think and then they use everybody. And I really, really like that as someone, I just appreciate when the coaches can find ways for guys to contribute. Doesn't have to be every game, but maybe this game, it's your turn. You better be ready. And I think they do that very well. So that's another good thing for them. And I also think a little tip of the cap to Bobby Johnson, who is their offensive line coach. Offensive line coaches always have a heavy say in the run game. I think the run games are pretty good. Obviously, Anthony Lynn is the run game coordinator, but I think the run game has been very good. And Johnson also has a hand in shaping that as well. So that offense it's Kingsbury's offense, but there are multiple submissions to that. And one thing Daniel said is that Kingsbury is very open to hearing suggestions and knowing what he likes. And then there's been they've used a lot of some of the concepts that he used at LSU. It's not all an LSU offense by any means. And I think, but there are elements of that, which is smart, and it's getting this young man comfortable in the NFL. So there you go. And the last thing is, and I know there was talk about Devontae Adams, and said it last night. Still don't think they're going to trade for him. It doesn't make sense to me. $35 million each of the next 2 years. So you'd have to renegotiate. He's at least 31 years old. I don't know when he turns 32. Maybe he already did, but I know he was 31 going into the season. And so it just doesn't make sense. You're not going to invest capital and then rework his deal for what? Like, he's not where they need help is on the other side of the ball. And I don't think you're going to invest a lot of resources in that. I'd still be very surprised if they had any interest. If you're going to make any sort of a move down the road, it would be for somebody who's going to help you in an area where you need it. And the way they're going with their pass game, they have one of the things that helps is, like, this is a good group. Like, their top receiver, Terry McLaurin, does not bitch and moan about not getting the ball. He handles it very well. He understands, a lot of things. And I don't think you want to disrupt that. And I think they've done a good job scoring points and moving the ball. And maybe that slows down as the league catches up to them. But maybe they also adjust. So I think as of right now, I would have a hard time, really real hard time seeing it. Nothing is indicated to me otherwise that it's something that could happen. So anyways, just want to drop that in there. That's it. That's all I have for today. I'll be back on Friday morning with another episode talking to Sam Fortier from the Washington Post. And I will be doing the private Zoom Friday night at 7:30, and I'll have my 5 things I think getting you ready for the Browns game, not just for the Browns game, but just a few things on them overall that also lead into Sunday. It's a big game because, you know why? Because you have a chance to go 4-1. The last time they went 4-1 was in 2008, in the year that I just brought up about Jim Zorn, and didn't go well after that. But I think they're a little bit better coach this time around. So I'm pretty safe in saying that. And I think they have, better players overall, but definitely a better coach team than they were that year, especially at the head coach position. So anyways, that's it from me. I'll be back, like I said, on Friday. So I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll talk to you next time.